So, The Weeknd has finally dropped his final album in Hurry Up Tomorrow. And I've got a lot of thoughts and feelings about it, and I thought who better to unpack a lot of these thoughts and feelings with than an old friend that you guys may know. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah?
I'm good. Man, we haven't done this in a long time, bro. But we're here. We're here, and it took a whole ass Weeknd album to get us back together. But yeah, dude, we have a lot to discuss. But yeah, good to be here.
Yeah.
What's up?
The
P.O.'s
very
place.
first guest of P.O.'s Place.
Yes, I'm
You know?
honored. I'm honored. You know, we've never really done this before.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is new for me.
You know?
But it
Here we are.
actually, yeah, it's been a long time, but I'm ready. I'm ready to
man.
talk. I'm ready
Let's
to
do
talk.
it. To dive in. To give you some of your thoughts.
Yeah, some
Something
of our thoughts.
Something like that.
TM.
Something like that. Let's start off with expectations.
Yes.
Obviously, there's just going to be a grand amount of a higher level of standards, considering one, the way the Weeknd has just operated in the past, and two, the fact that it's the final Weeknd album,
Right.
and three, just over the course of the build up towards this album, it's kind of hard to not get a little like nervous of like, ooh, is this gonna stick the landing? Like, what if the final Weeknd album is rough?
What if it's
you know?
mid? Yeah.
It's mid.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, starting off, just like where were you with that coming into the album? And
Yeah.
also, eventually, like, how did this album live up to that?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I speak for like a lot of Weeknd
nation.
fans. Yeah, the nation. I have the only opinion that matters. But the lead up was like kind of confusing and like really long and drawn out, you know? I mean we can go all the way back to like images and like certain leaks, but in terms of what I felt like was the actual start of the rollout was the Sao Paulo show, and he kind of did the whole opera thing. He previewed a ton of songs there.
Yeah.
You know, we had a lot of lead singles, Timeless, we had Dancing Through the Flames, and then Sao Paulo eventually.
Yeah,
Wake Me Up, you know. So, you know, we were getting a good taste of the album from an early standpoint, but you know, it was just kind of very convoluted. You know, there was like the crazy teaser, you know, trailer that was like the 3D, you know, flying to the past, seeing his younger self, you know, going into the haunted house and like this kind of weird trippy thing, and that got me really excited because it felt like, okay, here we go, you know, like this is the start. And then crickets for a long time, and then we get Dancing in the Flames, which is really like an iPhone ad, you know. And it's
so
like
people call it made by Apple Test Fade.
Yeah. That's pretty good. I think it's hard to beat the rollout of After Hours. You know, that was a moment, you know, he saved that whole year. Like during the pandemic, we were all just waiting for the next, we were anticipating the next just Instagram post, the next photo, the next like reveal of this character. So maybe we were a little bit spoiled because that's what we expect. And, you know, that was the first time he did it, so it was a little more special. Yeah. But this time around, I was like confused. We had that weird image of him like crying towards the camera, like, and the weird edits of that image, you know. I'm like, nobody's taking this shit seriously.
Yeah.
You know, so I was confused, to put it in one word. I was a bit confused of what this era was. And I was concerned and worried, you know, because I was like, bro, this is the last Weeknd album. This is supposed to be the triumph. This is supposed to be like his most realized thing. Like, this is the end of the trilogy. It's the end of his career. I expected there to be a little more, you know,
like a fanfare, a little bit more of a red carpet rolled out.
Exactly.
You know?
Like, I wish he could have gone through the era. He kind of did. He just reposted like older music videos, you know. But
with Rolling Stone.
So I'm like, I wish he like did a tribute to every era leading up, and then here's Hurry Up Tomorrow. But not really. Didn't really get that. But after listening to the album and going into the lyrics a little bit, and now feeling what the album is supposed to feel like now, I actually don't mind the rollout or lack thereof, because to me the music speaks for itself, you know, outside of whatever promotion he could have done. And for it to be his last album, like, we'll get into it, but I feel like I can get into the mind of Abel at this moment and be like, yeah, maybe just drop it, and
Yeah.
just have the music be there. So
Mhm.
I'm not mad now that I have the album and I have been sitting with it for the past couple days. But yeah, dude, like the whole Weeknd fandom was going crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, like complete 180 shift.
Yeah.
It's just being so nervous similarly and very almost a little bit anxious. Like the day of the release, with the 30th, I was at work just kind of like anxious, like counting down the days. Like there's like a doomsday clock going on in my head of like 9 o'clock, whatever. Well,
Yeah.
Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah.
And yeah, very similarly, I think going off the whole thing about, just in one word, describing my experience with the album in one word was very satisfied, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
In terms of that edge and that anxiety I had over like, what is this final statement on the Weeknd character going to be?
Mm-hmm.
This journey that we've gone on that has encompassed toxic love and, self-worth, self-value, and whether one deserves to be honest, what I view the Weeknd as now is a great non religious take on like morality and what's good and what's bad, and a lot of it has been viewed through what is bad, but also he's never lost track of like with that kind of like stakes in my mind of what I view the Weeknd character as. I'm just like, dude, what if it's just a playlist album,
yeah.
Which is fascinating to think of, is like, like that's what everyone's doing nowadays.
Right.
Just like here's, especially knowing that it was a double album, or at least a rumor came out as a double album. I'm like, oh God, more songs that could, like more stakes and more. And come to find out, I come through the album and I'm like, I feel good.
Right.
I feel great right now.
Right.
This is just good vibes. Just so you know, off the jump, this review is going to be good vibes.
It is going to be good vibes.
Some may say that there's a lot to dive into.
Absolutely a lot to dive into.
Eventually,
on a certain platform,
we'll
get into it.
Maybe not here. I don't think this is that kind of place.
Yeah, there's a better channel for that. I think. Yeah,
I agree. I agree. But getting into it a little bit, the conversation I think that we're always having with the Weeknd is just because there's been such a clear progression of it, is the sound.
Right. The sound.
How would you describe the sound of this album? And you can start getting to your thoughts about it.
I feel like, the main complaint I see about the Weeknd nowadays is this 80s synth pop sound is washed, third out 5 years of the same type of production, third album of the same type of thing. But I feel like people who say that, like, y'all not listening to the same album I am.
Oh, y'all are hearing it, but are you listening?
Are you listening? Right. Like, let's be real, I don't listen to music like y'all do, like I'm different. With this album, it was like a culmination of every sound he's ever done for me. If you look for it, because as a Weeknd fan and as people who talk about the Weeknd and who have delved into the Weeknd the past several years, we are listening for those cues. We are thinking about the context of every other song he's ever done. Yeah. And if you really listen for it, you will find notes from Trilogy. You will find runs and vocal inflections from Trilogy. You will find his classic, like, from Often and Beauty Behind the Madness. Yeah. And then you'll get Starboy in there with like the more trap. We got Future back in the mix. Like we got Travis Scott in there. Yeah. You'll get hints of After Hours with the big and the grand and like the more character and like kind of end credits type interludes and
transitions. I think for me, I
atmosphere. Yeah. So you can find that in there. You'll find Dawn FM with the transitions again. Yeah. And like just the interludes, the use of the interludes and the use of narrative moments. And then, so it was really, if you want to say one word to capture the sound, it's just the Weeknd, like it's literally just what the Weeknd has done his entire career. And, we'll get into it, but like you can really find bits and pieces and hints and nods to previous songs, to the production, the singing is, and even the lyrics. He's referenced other songs and multiple songs on the album.
I can't feel my face anymore.
Like the blinding lights. He literally it's everything I wanted and more. Honestly, it's more than I thought I was gonna get. from this album.
Yeah, and I definitely want to get into just the progression of the album from start top to bottom. Again, not the deep dive. That'll come whenever it comes. But in terms of the sound, I think you nailed it right on the head in terms of it's everything you love about The Weeknd. If you want the bombastic, cinematic, like your
Joker moment.
you're marching into madness. Like there's the Abyss and there's Big Sleep. If you want the more fun, chill R&B song, there's Niagara Falls. There's Can't Wait Till We Get There, which
so good.
like that. Those songs really caught me off guard because
of
course I'm expecting the darkness. But to get those little glimpses of the light, especially where he placed them, was perfectly executed. But also, I enjoyed the new bits that we got. We got the Brazilian funk with Sao Paulo.
Yep.
Which you went through a bit of an arc with it.
I am one of those people who were like
a born again Sao Paulo fan.
Born again Sao Paulo fan, because like. It was in the middle of the weird rollout, you know, and it came with like the really weird music video that I'm like, this makes no sense. Like, it has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
But now I hear it with the transition, with the two songs that come before it, and I'm like, oh shit, this is like low-key the best he's done. Like, this is like he's achieved a whole new level of like just straight like energy with that song, you know.
And then the other sound that I was super like, I was listening to this on headphones, and I was very much like leaning back, did the face that we all do when the music just hits you a different way. Chipmunk Soul, Kanye, era type vibe, like, but with The Weeknd, and with what that encompasses is like, you know, the scope, the different textures that involves. But using that tool, which I don't believe we've seen him really use.
Not really ever like that. You know, there are some funk influences on this album that I never thought I'd expect. I'm hearing bass being slapped. I
thought Thundercat was on. Can't wait till I get there.
Yeah. But I think that's another thing I love about the album is if I were to complain about the two previous albums in this trilogy, Dawn of Him and After Hours, is it's very grand, it's very full, it's very spacey and atmospheric the whole time, which is what they're meant for. But also, you know, it's not always what's necessary for an album, or there needs to be moments of quiet, or there needs to be moments of more, you know, tight bass and tight drums and something that lets you kind of like catch just a different vibe, you know. And those two songs, I Can't Wait to Get There. What's the other one? Give Up on Me or something like that. So
when it kind of it starts off super aggressive. And then it switches. Kind of turns into just like a piano, a little kick drum, and Abel's voice.
Yeah, which is that's exactly what I wanted. Like, for real. I think we've been talking about like what this sound could be for the last album, and we're always like, it would be cool if it was live instrumental. If it was just him, raw. I think because The Weeknd's gone so far deep into the god of synths, you know, world, that I never expected him to be able to return to that. But I feel like this was it. You know, he had two songs back to back with that kind of like simple, you know, and that really kept the interest for me throughout the track list, because I didn't, for a 22 tracks album, hour and a half freaking time, like
22 songs,
hour and a half runtime, like you got to keep my attention, and he really did. And though I attribute those songs because I'm like, one of those songs is my favorite song in the album, you know, and I'm just like, dude, I didn't think The Weeknd could do this again.
And you know what makes it even more incredible is that those elements very easily could just be like, oh cool, it's a cool shift in direction, it's great, but it's earned, it's a story element to it in terms of like, there's a reason that Giving Up on Me is the most aggressive, most self-loathing song ever, and all of a sudden you get a little taste of the light, you know, and it makes it gives it that extra dimension that, you know, may spark emotion. You know, which to me has always been my thing about The Weeknd is intention. That's always the word I've used to describe his work. And I think that's what kind of threw me off about the rollout prior. It was like,
didn't feel very intentional.
It just feels kind of cobbled together. We'll put it out as it comes, and because of that, it felt very like hurry up and wait. But no, then you get to, you know, these records, and it's just like, it's It's the pacing of it, completely intentional and meticulous,
Right.
and beautifully done.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about some of the features.
Okay. So do it.
Just let's you know what, I just want to pigeonhole this entire segment into just fan service moments, because
Okay.
Similar on the note of intention, the features
Mm-hmm.
completely intentional. These aren't just characters that, or these aren't just artists that, oh cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, another critique that you had about, you were talking to me about.
Yeah, with Dawn FM. I felt like all of the features on that record just like didn't really fit for me.
Lil Wayne, Tyler,
Lil Wayne,
Creator.
Tyler Creator. It was just like,
Yeah.
you know, they were trying to fit them into Dawn FM, and with The Weeknd, his sound and his worlds are so very much him, you know?
Yeah.
That's why, like, After Hours was, you know, I don't think there are any features on there, you know?
Yeah.
And it's because he has to create the world. So, but, you know, The Weeknd has had incredible features in the past. You know, think about all the features on Starboy and, like, Beauty Behind the Madness. Like, there's some great use of features. So I was like, I didn't know. I didn't even think about features for this album because I didn't think there were going to be. But everyone that's on here, not only has he featured with them before, but they're part of his like iconic features and iconic moments from previous albums with Future, Starboy, Travis Scott, Beauty Behind the Madness.
Yeah.
And then you have Lana Del Rey with also Starboy, and so just some of the biggest feature moments returning back felt really right. And the way they came in the songs are like, they're literally perfect.
Travis Scott on Reflections, laughing after that very, I don't know what's the word, not startling, but just like it shakes you, it grabs you, that interlude of the lady calling on the voicemail,
right?
And
you don't expect Travis Scott after that.
Yeah. Oh, Chucky.
Yeah. I was like, huh?
I'm like, and obviously I know you and I, we love Pray for Love. Like that to us, and especially the edit of it that's in Uncut Gems, the trailer of it.
So
like
sick.
that, we just have a special place in our heart. To me, to have Travis on that kind of down tempo song, and then again coming back to the whole intentionality thing, to have it to be at a point where he's kind of spiraling.
Yeah.
Ooh,
so
that shit hit. And then
Yeah.
you got Future, who he comes in at a time on Enjoy the Show, which by the way, I have a funny story about that. I was a little elevated. I was in the dawn.
Elevated, okay.
And you know, I'm listening to this at this point the album has kicked off. You know, I'm in my room, I'm dancing, I'm having fun. And then all of a sudden this song comes in, it's a nice chill, laid back vibe, reminds you to tell your friends.
Yep.
And it dawns on me somehow, for some reason, it's just like an intrusive thought. I get very scared. I start tensing up. Like it takes me out of the moment, because I thought, oh God, what if a certain Toronto artist comes in?
Why would you think that?
I don't know. I thought,
No way.
Again, an intrusive thought. I'm like, my God, is Drake about to come in? Yeah.
True Love Part 2, the most unwanted True Love.
I know, because I'm like, because I've gone back and I'm like, ooh, Drake has been the worst part of their collaborations. If you go back to something like Live For, True Love, like, I could just take the Weeknd on those like songs. So I'm like coming on this chill vibe, and I'm like, who is another rapper who could I feel a feature coming on?
Yeah.
Who are some? I'm running through my Rolodex of who are some people. It's a nice chill vibe. Who's got a chill voice? No. No. So I'm glad it ended up being Future.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned before, as I horribly sung before, he has a cool little entrance with Can't Feel My Face anymore and all this stuff.
And he comes on singing.
Yeah.
Like singing, you know? Like usually Future's kind of on the same vibe, you know? But he was out here like trying to go note for note, you know, with The Weeknd, which was really cool.
And then you mentioned Lana Del Rey.
Yeah.
I have a quote here that struck out to me. He goes, me and Lana have been, this is around 2016.
Okay.
Me and Lana have been friends for a long time. I've inspired her. She's inspired me. I feel like we've always been talking to each other through our music. She's the girl in my music, and I'm the guy in her music. It's just this ghostly collaboration that feels the most natural on Beauty Behind the Madness. Even the whole monologue intro on Lonely Star from Thursday, I just realized now that's Lana. That's Lana's voice. I mean, it's my voice pitched up, but it's her. And it's on The Abyss, which, okay, I'm going to save that point for a little later, but The Abyss, Lana Del Rey, the final feature on a Weeknd album, Lana Del Rey is the voice
of
that
the girl.
encompasses the girl in his music.
Yeah.
And I'm just, again,
Wow.
talking about intentionality, man.
Right,
That shit's
exactly. And it makes sense.
fantastic.
It's like that track that they have. It's funny because like for The Weeknd, the biggest moment with Lana Del Rey and The Weeknd is literally an interlude. You know, it's
Yeah.
less than 2 minutes long, yet it's like the most streamed interlude of all time. You know,
Mhm.
so it's like
and it defines the album.
And it defines the
the
album.
song. She goes, "You're my star boy."
right. You know,
know?
so it's like I love again intentionality, but also just poetic. You know, in terms of like bringing these features back. This female artist that just represented so much of like you know, he's talked about a lot of women in his albums, but to pinpoint Lana as like if there is one way to capture like his counterpart, the female version of him, and bringing her back and having her be the last feature ever, like come on. Come on.
It's so necessary, you know, and it's things like that I feel give the album the weight of, yeah, this is the final one. Again, these aren't just features. They're final encounters with these characters that we've seen The Weeknd encounter over and over again, and they represent different things. Like, of course, Future represents that toxicity, and to get that little bit of that left, that you know, that thing that we all secretly like to love a little bit about The Weeknd. Some people not so secretly. It's good.
Yeah,
it's great.
No, but
I love it.
On your note about the heaviness, I think that's also a great way to, I guess, describe this album. Is like if you've been there from the beginning, you feel the weight of this album.
Not even from the beginning. We haven't been there from the beginning.
That's true.
We really, you know, I'm sure we'd heard like Wicked Games or whatever, in passing, but
like I definitely heard Trilogy after the fact.
Yeah,
of the whole thing.
But if you have been invested for a while,
even if you're kind of a newer fan since like After Hours, you know, like you have memories with that album. You have memories with Dawn FM, and you have memories with Starboy, and like it goes back, and it's just like, especially the lyrics on this record, like you feel the weight of everything that he's saying, and it comes through in the production, the features, like it just feels like all encompassing, you know. Yeah.
It truly feels like there are certain songs like Enjoy the Show, which is essentially like a love letter or just like an acknowledgement of the fans. Right. He says at one point like, "Oh, we're locked in, our relationship is symbiotic," you know, and there are certain things like that and so metaphorical. Again, like a lot of the songs, if you're just reading it at face value, it's about a girl, or it's about it's a breakup song. Oh, it's a yearning for a past relationship. But also some of these songs are about death and mourning and grief and what awaits for us on the other side of, you know, like stuff like very deep philosophical stuff that you know, if you're looking for that kind of thing, if you get in what you get out of this. No, you get out what you put into this album.
Exactly.
You know? Which has always been how I describe about The Weeknd. Another, in terms of fan servicey moments, again, this is like the end game of The Weeknd album discography. Fan servicey moments. Let's get into some of these tracks, man. Take Me Back to LA.
Yes, finally we have it.
Is a song that's been 4 years in the making. Like literally the week that After Hours came out, he goes on Instagram Live. And we're all in lockdown, so we're all just chilling at home. We see him at home. Yeah, he's got this After Hours branded hat, and he's just like, "Yo, you mind if I play you some shit?" He goes on to play the song that at that point was all just. We had the chorus, we had the skeleton of the beat, but the verses were all just kind of like harmonizing, vocalizing, trying to find the flow. And so to hear that song in its fully realized version is amazing. There's another, so I'm just going to run through them and then I'll get your thoughts on just these. There's another song, The Abyss, which has been around since 2018, called Hold Your Heart. And then we have Big Sleep, which is, I Know I Love It When You're Angry, which, you know, when it came out was the announcement tour for... the announcement of the After Hours Till Dawn tour. And to know there's just some crazy, just I don't know what it, he's talked a lot in the past about how he's known what he wants this discography to entail, but to actually see that as a fan and to be following it and be like, oh wow, this is a song that I've lived with for as long as I have. Right. And not only that, but for it to, we've done this before. We've heard leaks of songs like, the one that comes to mind to me, another Mike Dean produced song is "Highest in the Room," and I remember when that snippet came out, we're like,
yo,
this is, and it comes out, and it's like, this is good, this is good, this is okay, this is I'm cool, but it doesn't stay with me. But these singles, the records that I'm referring to in particular, not only do they live up to this expectation that you just subconsciously build up, having lived with a song or like a snippet of a song, it exceeds them. The Abyss ends up being the final Lana Del Rey feature, ends up having this crazy beat drop. Take Me Back to LA just perfectly encompasses that sort of longing and regret.
Right.
So yeah, just what are your, how, in terms of fan servicey moments, like, how does that feel to be served? to be serviced? Like that kind of, again, like symbiotic relationship with that he has. Like, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting. I mean, I can even point to a lot of parallels with kind of a not really negative positive, but just the opposites. We have Save Your Tears versus Cry for Me. We have Take Me Back to LA versus Escape from LA. Like, there's just these moments of disillusionment from one album to the next. Cali Was the Mission. Escape from LA. Take Me Back to LA.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. You can call it fan service, but I really see it as like, we're just recognizing his journey,
Yeah. I feel like fan service has like a negative connotation. You're right.
Yeah.
It's a tips of the hat.
Just a nod to the. It is fan service in a way where it's like, if you're paying attention, you'll pick up on it, and we pay attention. So like, I've picked up on a lot of that, and like, I think in terms of just fans and how he's referencing his audience in this album, he's never really brought it to attention like he has on Hurry Up Tomorrow, because obviously he's talked about performances maybe he hasn't liked in the past, Coachella being one of them. Obviously with like the SoFi incident with like the I Can't Fucking Sing interlude,
oh my god, yeah.
So he is bringing that up, but also sonically we hear the audience sometimes and enjoy the show. In certain interviews we hear a crowd.
What is Without a Warning?
Yeah, we hear the
crowd will scream my name.
And he's had that conversation before, but I feel like he's brought it up the most this album. Is like, I feel like from how the perspective he comes from, and really why I feel like is the reason he wants to end being The Weeknd, is The Weeknd to him is just this never-ending like rat race to the finish line that is never gonna be there. You make the album, you tour the album, you do the press, you do the world tour, you go back, you make another album, you do the merch, you do the vinyl.
What's next for The Weeknd? What does this mean for the next Weeknd album?
Yeah, and everyone's like, once you get the album, everyone's like, well, what's next? And he's like, I think with this album, he's like, people will never stop demanding shit from me for the rest of my life. And this guy, obviously, he's debating his mortality, what seems like every other day, where he's he's thinking about when he's going to die and what he's going to do while he's alive. And The Weeknd is the definition of a success story, tenfold. It's like he can't stop becoming successful, but then how the industry sees it, how his managers, I'm sure, see it, how his marketing people see it, his team sees it as, oh, we got to keep this guy going. You got to keep this guy going. We got to get the streams up. There's so much money to be made. There's so much to get out of The Weeknd that for him, I think he's like, he could see the end of his life right in front of him every day. It's like, that's why he's so obsessed with his mortality, obsessed with, is this really it? This never ending loop, Donna Fenn is a loop, right? Like that's the definition of how this industry feels for him, is that he's going to do this until he dies. And it's like, does he want to live his life that way? Yeah. And so bringing up the audience, bringing up the fans, and doing those little nods, I think he's showing us like, this is a never-ending back and forth between, yes, I love my fans. Of course, we have a symbiotic relationship, but y'all will literally be the death of me. Like, I will be bled dry until I bleed out, literally. Yeah. Like, it's never-ending. So I feel like what really I took away from this is, if I were in his position, like, I would want it to end, bro. You have everything. Yeah. You have everything. You've achieved everything you could have wanted. You got to stop the rat race until the rats eat you, you know?
Exactly. And it's
Yeah.
and it you I think the point that you mentioned that I really enjoy, it's the law of diminishing returns, and it's the
Yeah,
disease of
yeah.
more. Those two
Right.
things I think make up a lot of today's the culture, the society,
Yep.
the way that people view art nowadays. It's like, oh, you made that really great lo-fi album from your bedroom, like come into the studio. Like SZA, I think of SZA a lot in
Mhm.
terms of a lot of her music is very much just how she's feeling in the moment,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it's like, okay, these are people feed families based off the back of what you make.
Yeah,
You know,
like,
whether
that
it's
pressure
good,
is
your
crazy.
tour, how you perform in the studio,
Yeah.
or on the stage. You know,
Exactly.
like
You got
that's
you got backup singers. You got
Yeah.
people who run the venue. You know, you got people who have the ticket. Those are all people's lives.
That's
depending-
scary,
It's so
dude.
scary. Like,
Yeah.
imagine you have thousands of people relying on your ability that day to be vulnerable for 100,000 people.
Yeah.
Like, I get that can be draining. And I mean, you look at he even nods to it with the I can't, effing sing interlude with that moment at SoFi.
Yeah.
Like, I read somewhere that was like sort of a crisis for him, where
Mhm.
he was really sick that day. Was going through like a loss of a family member that day,
Mhm.
and he was like, "I'll just do it. I'll get through it. I usually do."
Yeah.
And it literally his voice just stopped, like he literally couldn't sing.
Uh-huh.
And it was like his body realizing his body had a limit, and he was like, this whole time I thought it was limitless, I thought it was never ending. And I think that right there maybe was when he went to the drawing board with this hurry up tomorrow thing, and really started diving into what it really means and why he wants to end his career.
It's great that you mentioned that. John Denton
Yeah.
mentioned in his reaction to the album that it's cool that he can just do this. He was like, yeah, in my conversation with The Weeknd, he talked about how that moment changed a lot of how he operates in terms of, he went, I think, internationally after that point. Oh, no, during that, he was international. It was leg 2 of that tour. And he was saying, like, yeah, as much as I can, I'd like to prevent flying. Because flying, I guess, it affects your voice.
Yeah.
So as much as he can, he just drives now. So, just like the little choices. And he said, I think he confirmed exactly what you were saying in terms of after that incident, back to the drawing board. What does this mean? How can I sort of come to terms with this event that happened that, losing the thing that has given you your livelihood?
Yeah.
You know,
that must be a wake-up call. Yeah.
Ooh, that's like a barber losing their hands,
Right.
a surgeon,
Right.
Like losing
Tearing
the
an
thing
ACL,
that a lot of people are say like, yo, you saved my life, and you just lose it. Like that's
crazy.
terrifying. But
that's
anyways,
crazy.
I want to let's get into the music, man.
All right.
Let's do the music. What are some standout records to you? To be honest with you, I'm gonna try my best, but this is it's a top 22 that I'm juggling with. I cannot.
Right.
But what are some records that for somehow, some way, moved you, surprised you, that you just like to mention?
Yeah. I mean that opening, first off, with the Michael Jackson Thriller interpolation, and the beat drop, and was crazy. I mean, we know The Weeknd can make an opening track. I think we've established that.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely that.
The fact that it's up there. It's like giving Alone Again a run for its money.
It's like Alone Again and Dawn FM in one. It's just like this crazy cinematic thing with the crazy drop, and like it was also kind of funky too. Like it was everything.
Yeah. While you think of yours, I wanted to bring up Sao Paulo in the sense that this album, I feel like, is a great journey through The Weeknd's music, like his discography. It starts off very trilogy-esque, and it's like, okay, we say that a lot, but it's like, what does that mean?
Right.
And trilogy, to me, how I define it, is like the griminess,
Mm-hmm.
the dirtiness, like you're going through a party, and this haze that's kind of covering everything.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I think what's beautiful is that he brings us back to that vibe, but with a different sound.
Right.
With this, Brazilian funk, Sao Paulo sound.
It's
and
a different. It's like that, but as big as a stadium.
It's that tone, but bigger.
Like a warehouse rave is what I think of when I hear that. Especially when you hear like the big horns and that kind of just bumping bass, and like the way it just gets so loud at the end. And
also another thing about the trilogy vibes is that I think there's not a lot of structure in that album.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the songs kind of meander a little bit, which is great. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but some of the songs wander, and that's some of their allure. You know, it's
Their
like
charm.
You get to just
Yeah.
chill in House of Balloons and
Right.
Glass Table Girls, and this song, it it has a kind of a chorus, it has a verse, sure. Anita comes in, but then there's like a part where it just kind of breaks down and goes down.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that part, to me, that moves me, man. That, and again, within the context of the album, it just hits. It just hits. So yeah, what's the record that
Yeah.
or it can be a run, a sequence, whatever.
Yeah, I mean that middle sequence for sure. I mean, it's kind of hard to like all these have their moment, you know. But I would say, you know, Open Hearts is definitely a standout. I feel like most people are like pointing at that being their favorite right
transition
now.
from Baptized and
crazy.
I'll put the Fantano clip.
Right. For me, honestly, I Can't Wait to Get There, I think, is the one I go back to the most. I kind of start the album from there sometimes, and then I kind of do like a reverse sort of thing.
Yeah.
Niagara Falls is really cool. Give Me Mercy is great.
My thing about that song, that song is so Human Nature by Michael Jackson.
I see that.
Has that very tender, gentle vibe to it. The tone, the subject matter.
Yeah, and then obviously like Hurry Up Tomorrow. Some really raw lyrics on that, and like just I feel like he was talking about stuff that he's never really talked about on any song. And yeah, it was just like a great peek into his soul there, and like where he is in this moment, and you know why he's deciding to end it all. In terms of his career, or like just the Weeknd being
that represents.
Going by the Weeknd.
Yeah.
So obviously Hurry Up Tomorrow is like a huge highlight for me. But yeah, you know, there's so much to unpack here. Just from a track list standpoint, let alone what he's saying on here. Like, you know, we made a deep dive on his other few albums, and you know, we had a million things to say. Now it's like times 10. So, and it's only come out for the past couple days. So like, there's a lot to unpack, but I would say right now, number one for me, song I go back to the most is I Can't Wait to Get There. It's the most different sounding Weeknd track I've heard. It has the best, like, amazing flow. I've said this before publicly, like that Tell Your Friends is like my favorite Weeknd song. This gives me Tell Your Friends vibes in terms of just the flow, and just he's kind of between
the tone of it.
Yeah, and he does that little sing rap thing that he just rides that line perfectly. He's literally perfected from throughout his career.
Yeah,
like it's just that, and with a chipmunk soul and a funk background, like come on, bro, like I have to love it. So
it's incredible, man. Like it hits you out of nowhere, and you're just like, wow, this you know, in talking about what Abel Tesfaye could be, you know, in terms of like him dropping music, as I think that was a good peak of it. If I had to speculate a little bit, I think there's just, with the Weeknd character, there's like a bit of an expectation of there's going to be darkness. You know, anytime we drop music that, anytime he drops music that is kind of light and different, is very much like, man, give us some of the whole Weeknd back. Like, it was a conversation that we've had to navigate through a bunch of times.
Right.
So I think this definitive end, but also this album, providing good peeks at it, you know.
Yeah, totally. I could see that, and it was a welcome moment on the album for me because, like I said before, the heavy synth stuff can get, you know, overwhelming, and like sonically, like kind of taxing after a while. You know, it's like a lot of electronic synths, and it's a lot of spaciness, and there's something beautiful about feeling like he's right here, you know, in your ear versus circling around you and the AD shit, you know, like crazy, which is awesome for those moments, but. When you can suck that back in, like a easy 1, 2, 3, you know, just something to get me back into it.
That Abel Tiny Desk, baby. I want that Abel Tiny Desk. Oh, these are the records that I want on the Abel Tiny Desk. You know, you mentioned I Can't Wait to Get There. Another song that's similar to that feels like a different vibe to me is Drive. Especially in the track list. It just feels like it's like that final moment you get with a person before everything changes. You know, like obviously then you get into the rest of the track list, to The Abyss, Without a Warning, Red Terror, which I'm you know, just learning about like that particular record and what it means, and it's just so powerful. But before you get there, you get the song Drive, which is essentially, it's all about just like let's just get in the car and let's just drive, you know, and let's have fun. And it has that through the production, that sentimentality that you almost like, it's like the romanticization of the moment. Like I love that. I love that song. But also another record I wanted to mention. You did mention Wake Me Up, which I love that song. To me, that's like the that's like the duality of the Weeknd. Is you have the Phantom of the Opera, very cinematic vibe, and then also we can just get dancing. We can
right,
disco. But the last record I think I wanted to mention was oh my god, hold on, I'm like going through the track list. I'm like, there's a lot of songs I want to mention, but Timeless is the last record I do want to mention, because I also was kind of like, I hope it's not on the album leading up to it, but now after the album I'm like, this was nice, this was good. I like having a nice little, it's like we're tackling thoughts of existentialism and da-da-da-da-da.
And then we can turn up for a second.
If I but also turn up. If you weren't me, then I would cut up my wrist. And like ever since I was a kid, I've been like it's cool to get like a little last flex, and then let's go through the journey.
Right.
Give me mercy. But I would really just go through the entire track list if I could. But we'll get there. We'll do that eventually.
Right.
So we're kind of rounding third here. Just in terms of how he went about his final album, the story of it. What do you think about how did that land?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think what's a good and bad thing about this being a longer album is, the last third definitely drags out, but I don't think in a bad way. It's not like he lost my attention, but it was definitely like, it felt like he was relishing in a moment that he absolutely deserves to have an overstayed welcome in. This is the last third. This is the last couple tracks of the Weeknd, of the album. And there's a lot left to say. I think he just had so much to say with this record that the last third being this sort of like the abyss, I feel like kind of kicks it off with kind of bringing us back down, and like bringing us back down from Drive and like the poppy stuff, going into just straight. With these songs, it feels like they could have no production and they would still hit in terms of their lyricism, the vocals obviously, but what he's saying on it. And I think there isn't really a perfect way to wrap up. Like who knows? Like he's on, like no one has ever been the Weeknd, so like how do you wrap this up? There's no blueprint, but I felt like he did it in a really honest way, and for me it landed. Like I resonated with it. Like it felt like that feeling I felt when I first listened to Less Than Zero for the first time, and just that feeling of like release. It felt like that, but over the course of like 3 different tracks, and I can get with that. Like this is a big release, this is a big moment to look back on, to be honest about, and it was just such an interesting way to end it, and it was almost kind of somber at the end. I thought he was gonna go off with a big old like this is it, like I thought like Dancing with the Flames was gonna be the last thing, if I'm gonna be honest, because that's not even on the track list, so, and I thought he was gonna give us that big like, wow, this is it.
Bit of joy where you're like, wow, like, the Weeknd has finally reached
free.
Happiness,
But he doesn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. He shows, like we said, that never-ending loop of this could, if I didn't end it now, then this could be my whole life, and I don't want it to be. Even does that to the extent of literally making his whole discography a loop, technically, like literally.
Thank you for mentioning this. Yes. So just for some backstory, in case you don't know, in case you haven't seen all the 50,000 Instagram posts about it, the final moments of Hurry Up Tomorrow is the exact soundbite that opens up High for This, which is on the very first mixtape, House Balloons, and creating a perfect. Technically the first song, creating a perfect circle from the beginning of the Weeknd discography to the final song on the final Weeknd album.
So, I mean, if we're looking at this from just a trilogy standpoint of After Hours, Dawn FM, Hurry Up Tomorrow, we're always like, what is he going to do? Like, how is he going to make it out of the dawn? Is he going to find the light? The answer is no. It's a never, that's for me, how I interpret it. It's a never ending loop.
Yeah.
And that's all the explanation I need of why he would ever end such a successful career is like, I can't live in this loop forever, or else I will literally be dragged through hell and I'll be reborn and my soul can't take that any longer, you know?
Yeah. And on that note, I've heard this album, this whole trilogy actually, be described as the most anti-fame album.
Yeah.
It has dissected.
It's full of regret.
It's full of regret.
Yeah.
It's full of dirty truths in terms of I think of that interlude again where she's saying like, yo, you're in a hotel room cooped up, drinking, doing coked up, and
You barely got through that show. Like
barely got through
someone
that
said
show.
you look terrible, you know?
Mhm.
Like,
and how does that even feel anyways? Like
Yeah.
the typical human can't even really comprehend or understand that feeling. We can try to. We can try to be like, yeah, I watch Hannah Montana, and like I get how like, you have to change your wig and all this stuff.
Take the moniker off.
But actually dealing with that on a day-to-day basis, and that weight of that is so cool, and or at least like the way he dissects it.
Yeah.
And I love the way you phrase it in terms of like, there is no happiness for the Weeknd. I look back at it, and I've thought about just like it would be nice to see the Weeknd get a victory or just get a dub, but that's not the fate of this character, like he and what I love is that I think of this show that went for a long time. I think of Smallville, the show of Superman.
Mm-hmm.
That show ends at the exact moment that he becomes Superman. And I feel like this album ends at the exact moment that he allows us to see what Abel is like.
Yeah.
Hurry Up Tomorrow is this super honest song. But even prior to that, you get Red Terror, which is about his mom evacuating from a genocide or just like a very mass event that really was very dangerous, and going to Canada and all this stuff. You get a peek into his soul in a way that he just never really got into it, which I think is why, again, I feel the same way. Lands it totally, feels honest to the Weeknd character, and it's just a satisfying ending in terms of the story it tells, but also musically there's a lot of just like beat drops and little things that like you're like, oh shit, he's like two-stepping his way to his fate, like on Without Warning and all this stuff. I love it. And again, going back to the whole idea of the loop, I love the idea that you have the most honest record he's had, Hurry Up Tomorrow, and then you go into High for This, which is like desensitized,
Peak.
Like okay, we had that moment, but anyways,
spark it up. Yeah, exactly.
It's beautiful.
It's crazy. Yeah,
man.
So I guess if we're going into, we just talked about a lot about what we love about the album, and what we thought it did. And it did a lot well. And I think for me, the real meat of this album, in terms of what it's about, comes in the last bit, and all the songs we just talked about. I do wish he was able to give us more earlier or throughout. Obviously we get little bits and pieces here. We get some interesting moments of like him talking about fame and what it did to him that night at SoFi.
Yeah, Wake Me Up kind of sets the tone in terms of like, this is all about hopefully the journey of waking me up,
right?
From the slumber, all this
exactly.
Stuff. Yeah.
But he gets into some really personal shit, with Red Terror especially. That's something about his background we didn't know about, about his parents, about his mom, about having an absent father, having that hole be in his life, trying to fill it with money, drugs, fame, whatever it is. We don't get that till the last song, and I get it, you save it till the end, and maybe it's just hard for him to talk about, but I do wish we were able to dive even deeper into it earlier on the track list,
Okay.
We have great moments of like party anthems. You got Timeless on there, you got Drive, and like all these great fun moments that and interludes and beat drops and stuff that bring in that darkness back, but I feel like he had a lot of room and a lot of chances to really go into it more and bring us, just be honest, and be more honest with us versus the kind of similar things we've heard in terms of like, this lifestyle isn't for everyone. I have regrets. I want to be in LA. I miss being in LA. There's a lot of women who have hurt in my life. A lot of women have hurt me. I live with this trauma every day. I understand, but like, what about it? And we don't get it till the end, and he gives us a lot into it. But if I were to pick one thing about this album, I wish he gave us more insight. But again, that's his trauma to choose
Yeah.
whether or not to speak on. But he's done it in the past in really amazing ways. That's why I love Less Than Zero, the saddest, happiest song of all time. Like it just gives you that like yearning or that melancholic feel. And he ends up there at the end. But yeah, like I really wish he brought us in a little bit closer, a little bit earlier into the track list.
Cool. Yeah. Absolutely. I think I like the slow burn of it. I think there are certain lines that come through on the second listen that I was like, ooh, that's knowing where we're going. I was like, yeah, man. So we'll get all into that in the deep dive again. That's coming through.
Yeah.
I guess this is like a couple different things. This is first of all like our statement on the final Weeknd album, our review, our thoughts, our feelings. It's also an announcement that your two favorite Swagapinos, we have been hanging out.
Yes.
We've talked.
We're in the same city now.
Yes. And so, we'd love to, we should do this more often,
I think we can bring it back.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. And then, also an announcement that, we will definitely have a deep dive coming out whenever it comes out.
Yep.
And,
give us some time. This is the most dense.
Yeah.
This is basically like, imagine deep diving the entirety of Trilogy.
We're not giving you no NFR typical bullshit as like, oh, I really enjoyed that album. No, I don't. You enjoyed that song? I didn't enjoy that song.
Yeah.
Nah, this isn't some bullshit analysis, bro.
Like, there's maybe like 2 good songs, rest are skips.
Which by the way, okay, I'm not gonna put this in there.
Okay.
You gotta answer. No, I'm not gonna put this what I'm about to say.
Okay.
But you got a lot to answer for with the NFR.
Hey.
I just want to put that picture up in the middle of us and just be like,
Yeah.
you gotta answer for that. But
We'll talk about that on another time.
Yeah. But anyways, so some may say that is our thoughts on the final Weeknd album.
The final Weeknd album.
Crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. Very satisfied. And yeah, man, this has been another edition of P.O.'s Place. Very grateful and happy, joyful that I was able to get my brethren up in here as my very first guest in P.O.'s Place, and it just feels poetic, feels right.
It feels right.
Thank you, man. Thank you for coming through.
Thank you for having me. Thank you to the Weeknd for creating so much for us to talk about and feel through and appreciate during. It's just great that I can just like pretend nothing else exists and just live inside the Weeknd's world. So we owe him a lot.
Yeah. So that's been that. Please leave us your thoughts and anything you got in the comments below. And we'll see you around.
Yeah. Subscribe to P.O.'s Place.
Hey, and subscribe to what was coming back. Let's just say, man, OTP's back, baby.
OTP's back. We'll just say it. This
my
will be,
man.
Okay, the video ends. Okay, post credit. OTP is back. End credit scene.
Damn.
For the real ones.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Peace.